right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Plant Nerd Podcast. I'm here with Kata, the queen of the perennial garden, Michelle, the millennial maven herself, and Devin, the Don of North Florida. I get to host this royal family of plant nerds today on our journey to talk about our fingernails, right? We have a lot of important things to talk about, Devin. So we're at the end of the season here. We're getting ready for falls, getting ready for winter. The fall's almost wrapped up. What is growing on with you, Devin? And please tell us.
So this week we had our first frost down here in North Florida. So last weekend I had to do the mad dash to move all the tropicals into the garage, dig up the bougainvilleas, I just planted a new mangave garden like a month ago. So we covered all that with frost cloth just to make sure it make it through the cold. The old ones that have been in the ground did just fine. They weren't even phased because it got down to about 29 here.
Wow.
But there was a really heavy frost on Tuesday. So, and also the citrus, we moved in. I got a couple that aren't doing well that kind of defoliated or are trying to reflush. So I moved those in, but all the other citrus did just fine. We just woke up early. Kind of one of the things I've learned over the years is instead of trying to cover stuff, just wake up before the sun comes up and then go out and hose all the frost off before the sun hits the leaves.
What? You go outside and you hose off the frost of your citrus?
Yep. I mean, when I worked
I feel like I'm so sudden now. I'm like, just the thought of me having to go outside when there's still frost. Okay, I just was like, oh, is that more worth it than the citrus? But yes, of course it is.
But I mean, over the years I've covered stuff, and when you cover stuff, you still get burned. But I mean, last year I've just got too much to cover. I mean, I have a lot of frost cloth, but it's just too much. So I just started hosing stuff off, and I honestly have better results just hosing the frost off than trying to cover, especially on hydrangeas with their buds.
Yeah, for some people that's not intuitive. Go water while the freeze is coming. So why does water help insulate? What does water do in the plant?
Well, the biggest thing is not really that it's insulating. When you go to hose off your plants that have frost on it, the water coming out of the ground or your house is going to be above freezing. So it's going to naturally warm up the plant a little bit. And it also melts the frost off because the frost doesn't actually burn the plant. What causes the burn on the plant is when the sun hits the frost and it heats it up really, really fast. That's where you get a lot of your burn from, that quick, from freezing to not freezing. The sun is so intense. That's what does it. So if you hose off the frost and the leaves are just wet when the sun hits it, you don't get the burn that you do from frost.
That is amazing.
I mean, I've been doing it. I did it when I used to run my old garden center before I worked at Servscapes. We'd have a whole entire greenhouse or a whole entire shrub yard full of shrubs, and you get that last frost, and we just got there and hose everything off. And man, it works so good. So that's my little secret.
So amazing.
Yeah.
I always love how we still learn so much ourselves on this podcast. We're like, oh yeah, I'm on this podcast, people. Like, I'm giving advice, and then I'm like, wow, I've never heard of this before.
Never heard that, right?
Just little tricks and trades over doing different things all the time, but it worked really good. So, we got the cold. We have a rainy weekend this weekend, so I'm putting up Christmas decorations at my house all weekend. So, because I can't do anything outside.
Nice.
Love it.
Do you have a tacky blow up something?
No, I do not believe in inflatables. I am so anti-inflatables. My whole yard is. Do y'all know the old blow mold, from the blow mold, Santa Claus and the nativity scene and stuff like that?
Yes,
the plastic
I do.
guys that light up. That's what I have because I'm old. I've had them since I was a little kid, and so they're all out in my yard. I got them all down from my parents' house this year, and so my front yard's all decorated with my Santa Clauses and snowmen and penguins and candy canes, the nativity scene, snowmen. So
that's
decorating
awesome.
for Christmas.
Mario, have you caved to the inflatable pressure from the children yet?
No, not yet. I found I found an elf. Like I reject some of these new traditions just because we're so tapped out. I found an elf on a shelf in a box, and I just threw it away. I was like, find the shelf now, buddy. Like, you're out of here. I was like, just listening to Devin being like, I had to do something before the sun came up. Like, if I had to move this elf, which a parent does, before my child gets up, is like, it's just as painful as watering your plants before the freeze. You know.
Somebody a few years ago gifted us a Hanukkah version of that. It's like a mensch on a bench, and I did the exact same thing. I was like, in the trash you go, buddy.
I think that's hilarious. We actually don't have this tradition in Austria. And I was just thinking how I totally want to do this tradition, even though I don't have kids. I think it would be so fun. But maybe I should rethink that.
People get creative with it. I mean,
yeah.
Well, you want to know a funny story? This isn't really related to plants, but it's related to Elf on the Shelf. When I was in college, I did a family business consulting class, and one of the companies that we worked with was Elf on the Shelf.
Oh,
So I've met like the mom, the grandma, and everything that created it, and everything. Went to their office over in Marietta because it's actually an Atlanta-based.
oh, it's an Atlanta thing.
Yeah, it's an Atlanta thing.
I feel bad.
So it's a cool story.
You should do an Elf on the Shelf garden center version for like the Surfscape guys. You just
We'll hide one on the digital shelf, like somewhere on the website. There will be an elf, and if you find it, you get a pages plants, then you get
10% off.
prize.
I love it.
All right, Michelle, tell us what is growing on in your world, and if it's an elf on a shelf, we're going to Kata.
Yeah. No, there's no elf on a shelf. I actually didn't do much outside because we got down to 29, I think, too. We got down to colder than I was expecting. So I've just been outside kind of scoping out the damage. And one thing I planted a while ago. I saw it online. I got really excited. It was a hardy cyclamen. And it said, easiest, showiest cyclamen to plant. And it was a perennial version. And it's supposed to bloom October through November. And it has not bloomed for 2 years. And I'm very disappointed. So
I got the answer.
You got it? Look at you.
Yes. So for all of viewers, we all were like, why does it not bloom for Michelle? Like, mine is gorgeous. It took a lot of years to finally do something, but eventually it does bloom. And then Devin threw in like, hey, is it too much sun? I'm like, mine is in full shade. Well, we did ask Kata's dad, because luckily Kata's dad is very smart about plants too. Probably
I love it.
Together. He actually says this happens when you live somewhere where it's too warm. So
no,
it's not the answer that you wanted to hear.
It's not.
The answer, as I said it out loud, I was like, oh, that's actually a really sad answer for her. But yeah, so he says that like cyclamens, they survive perfectly, but they just won't bloom as nicely if they didn't have enough chill phase. And
that makes sense because they always do bloom in the winters and like early spring. So that makes sense.
Just grab yourself a couple of ice cubes and make it a little bit colder.
Let's say dig it up and put it in the fridge for a few weeks.
Devin's gonna be like hosing off his frost, and I'm gonna be dumping ice cubes on plants in the morning.
I'll send you my frost.
From North Florida.
I love it. Yeah, I always hate when it's like an answer like this because there's so little we can do about. But you know,
I gotta try a different plant, right?
Yeah, and also like maybe you'll get a really nice cold winter this year. It started off pretty cold, so maybe next year is your year, girl.
Maybe.
Michelle, I find that the annual ones down here in Atlanta, you can, if you plant them in a protected spot in the winter, they'll come back and it's going to bloom better for you than the perennial one too. I mean, my mom had a cyclamen in a pot and she's crazy and doesn't ever let a plant die. And so I was like, get rid of this cyclamen. And she's like, no, it's still alive. And she had that thing for years and it blooms every spring. So you may want to try the annual one.
I know we have such a great time on this podcast, but it is being recorded. It is being released. Your mother may listen. So don't trust me.
Trust me,
Just
she
go.
knows. I'm always like, quit trying to save that plant. Just get rid of it and do something new. Like,
All right.
she
And Michelle,
never.
anything else growing on? Anything else, or before we move to Kata?
I mean, I kind of want to hear some more Devin mom stories, but yeah, we can move on.
After Kata, go ahead. Kata, would you like to talk about your dad or your mom?
You know, no. Today we should fully do an episode about my dad one day, but maybe not today. You know, I have to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot going on for me this year either. However, I do want to say that I absolutely loved one of Michelle's posts this week on her Instagram where she talked about like it was the first time doing her fingernails. And like, I know you guys probably find this more boring, but like, I thought it was funny because look what I have already on my desk, ready to go. It's my polish. Yeah, like what a struggle as a, you know, a person who likes to paint their fingernails. I'm not saying girls, I'm like anybody, but like regular nail polish just absolutely sucks for gardening. And even though I use a lot of my gloves, it just doesn't work. I've done my nails with gel for a long time, but I'm really excited it's winter time and I can actually use just cheap gel, look like a decent human being. And I just loved how the outreach on her Instagram was like so massive over this like little teeny tiny reel about fingernails. So
feel
absolutely love that. That was a total highlight in my week. But yeah, how about you guys? Do you use gloves in general? Are you, you know, bare finger gardeners? Devin for sure is.
I have terrible hands. I do
bare
not believe
finger.
in gloves.
It's
Only
crazy.
if I'm doing like roses or like pokey things, I'll wear
Yes.
gloves.
See, I'm a
Just
total glove person. Like I use gloves for everything. It's not like I don't like it. I feel like it dries out my skin even more. It already is
Yeah.
not great with gloves. But yeah.
Do you
just-
wash them?
Oh yeah, all the time. Mhm.
That's my thing. Is like then you gotta wash it, and then oh man,
Oh,
maybe
man.
that's my problem is I don't wash my gloves.
Yeah, no, I wash my gloves all the time. And I only use one brand, Shoba, and that's the one. And I feel like gloves is nearly our own science, especially if you work in horticulture. Like if you just kind of garden, I don't want to like say it's not important which type of glove you use, but I do think if you do a lot of propagation, like you need a certain amount of like feeling in your fingertips. But
yeah.
still, you know, you want to have the gloves to actually protect you. And so like that one glove brand, I just think it's one of the best for doing that. And yeah, when I was younger, I feel like there wasn't many options for gloves. And now it's just like there's a whole world out there for garden gloves that is
Oh yeah.
really crazy. But yeah, they definitely last the longest for me. And maybe we can like
Okay.
drop the link later for
Yeah.
the type of gloves I
Look for
use.
your favorite.
Are they
Kata's
Yeah.
so
favorite.
Kata, the gloves you wear, are they like a really thin glove? Because that like I can't wear the big bulky gloves. They drive me crazy. Like the only gloves I use are pretty much like mud gloves, which is a nice thin glove that has like the textured bottom. But I'll have to give it
Yeah.
a try because like I don't know, I'm
You
weird
should.
about things in my hands.
And yeah, it's funny
So
also. I absolutely love pink ones. Most of mine are pink.
Are they pink?
I have like just this thing. I don't like it when it's not pink, but
I
that's what
probably
tell me
need to
to
get
bring it.
better at wearing. I probably need to get better at wearing gloves because I don't like wearing gloves, but then I also don't like the dirt on my hands. So like when I'm planting stuff out in the yard, I'll like plant one plant and then I go and wash my hands off and then go plant another plant.
Yeah,
and
the
then wash
next one, and then you go wash it off. I do the same thing.
See,
I'm
maybe I'm going to convince y'all to become Team
glove
Gloves.
gardeners. Yeah,
Glove
I'll check them.
gardeners.
If it's pink, I'll check it out.
Hey.
Okay, so we got our apparel, right? Gloves. We got what's the nail polish color? What are we going with, Michelle?
Gotta be
It was,
pink.
We have
it's
a-
pink. It's pink, but I can't remember the name. I'm sure it's got a
I'm doing the ice blue next. I really
Nice
like it. I'm excited.
Devin, I'll give you a high five. I don't know.
Yeah, all natural.
all natural.
Yeah.
So
A little
we're
bit of
coming up on
dirt
the
under
end.
the fingernails.
So we got a lot of people mulching now. We had our first brief frost. We got a lot of different types of mulch. We got, your mini nuggets, your pine straw, your wood mulch, all the different wood mulches, cypress, cedar. Like, what are y'all doing how are you winterizing? Like, what are you going to do and I'll just go first because I
Because it's your
like a lot of
birthday.
different, I like, yes, it's this is the birthday edition of the Plant Nerd Podcast. Yeah, 42.
Are we gonna
I'm not
sing?
lying. No,
Yeah,
no,
off
no,
camera.
not yet.
Definitely
This-
off
yeah.
camera.
Got the little pine straw here, brown mulch over here, mini nuggets over here. I'm a big fan of a lot of different mulches.
And you mix it up.
I think I like to mix it up, and I use it as a design feature rather than because some plants do better with certain types of mulch, certain colors. So I am a big, big fan. And I've gotten into Swift Straw, which is, I love it. And I kind of have a love-hate relationship. It's so easy. So it's like for Swift Straw, it makes a product called Clean Straw, which they basically vacuum pack 2 bales of pine straw into one. It's wrapped in kind of like this plastic, which I don't like. But I do like how easy it is. You pull it out of the bag. You take the bag to Kroger. They'll recycle it like with all the other plastic bags. But super simple. Did my whole backyard with 5 bales, which usually was like a whole truckload of traditional bales.
Yeah.
So pine straw has been pretty key, pretty clutch right now. So what are y'all doing for mulch winterizing?
I just use pine bark mulch in my yard. And when I put it out, I usually put it out in when everything's dormant, so like in January and February. And when I do it, I make sure I do it at least I do it thick. So I do it like probably 3 to 4 inches thick, just so you have that built in. And then when it gets cold, I don't have to worry about going around and mulching everything. So I kind of do it
Wow.
once all the leaves are down and get it once and done, because I have way too many beds to try to go through and mulch for the winter. So I
So
mulch
have you done
ahead
it yet?
and it stays there.
Have you
I
done
did it
yet?
last year. I did it last year, so I'll start up here again in January and February, doing it again for next year.
Do you think that you'll change your mulch habits as you are in Florida now?
I mean, what I actually use, down here in Florida, I'm a huge fan of it. Because up in Atlanta, I always used mini nuggets. I was mini nuggets, mini nuggets, mini nuggets, mini nuggets. That's the only thing I would use. But
Don't
down
say
here,
rub.
I actually go to the county recycling place, and everybody brings in like branches and everything that like the trash truck that picks up all the landscape waste, they just grind it up and turn it into a nice fine mulch. And it's free. There's no plastic. I'm a huge fan of it because, when I did mini nuggets, I'd have all those bags and it would drive me crazy. So I feel like it's green. I'm reusing something. It breaks down pretty fast and it makes the soil really good. So that's what I've been using here, is just the stuff from the county.
That's
great.
interesting. I've been
Michelle,
using
what are you doing? You're in the
yeah,
county.
I've been doing no. I've been doing the pine bark nuggets too. So I'm a nugget fan. I feel
I
like
love mini nuggets.
you like the minis.
Yeah, I like the mini.
Recently we went with the giant nuggets, and they take a while to break down, so you don't have to do it as often. So I find especially in areas that I don't really garden in too much and I just need mulch to stay, like a really thick layer of the non-mini nuggets, I don't know, regular size pine bark lasts like a solid year or two, and then just needs to be topped off. But my problem is every time I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done planting. I'm good. I will go ahead and mulch everything. Then I'm like, oh, look, bulbs, or oh, look, spring perennials. Like, it just feels like a month ago I mulched and now I messed it all up. And then it's just a constant.
I have the same problem.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always curious about mini nuggets. I mean, does it change the pH that much? Because they're pine nuggets, right?
Right.
I mean, when do you have to watch out for maybe a big transition into more basic soils or too acidic?
I wouldn't think it'd be any worse than pine straw.
Right. Well,
I mean, and
it's
they don't
much
really
more
break
dense material.
down. They don't
I mean,
break down as
doesn't it
fast as
also
pine
just
straw.
matter of like how they were processed? Like, I'm obviously very quiet because I'm not a big mulcher to begin with. Like, you will rarely see me mulch in my garden. Um, if I do, it's like triple shredded regular mulch. But I always felt like I learned that you have to be a little careful with that, if they were dyed or if there's like other chemicals in it. I think that actually matters so much more than
Mhm.
really if it was like all natural nuggets. But
Yeah. I mean, at my parents' house, I used to use black and brown mulch for years, and then I changed over to mini nuggets, and I saw much better. The plants were much
results.
happier when I got away from the dyed mulch.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's really funny. Like, when you remember when we did the episode with me being in Austria, I also like walked around in Austria and like my parents, like even in their like public garden, they don't mulch, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I learned now in the US like all the benefits of mulching. It really helps with weed
Yeah.
subscription, English words, with weeds, and it just there's a lot of different positives. But yeah, I feel like because I like grew up over there and we just then like plant so much more densely. And if you're in a cooler climate, also plants are more lush. They do grow together way nicer. I think that's just not realistic in the South either, that you get those cool meadows that you see in, pretty magazines. So I do
Yeah.
think there's something really important about mulching down here in the South.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm still like, I'm not a mulcher. It's really crazy. Like
But
I got like all this super expensive pretty mulch, and like literally guys, it's still in my driveway from last year, like half of it. I like mulch a little. Then my husband is really motivated because he did horticulture in the South, and I'm like, we gotta get rid of this mulch.
I mean, to
but
me, the biggest benefits of mulch in the South and the Southeast, I mean, it does help keep down weeds, but the biggest thing is helping keeping moisture in the soil. That is the biggest key for mulch. Because if you don't mulch, it's just going to evaporate so fast down here.
Yeah.
So fast. And I also like when you choose natural mulches, like at my parents' house, the soil, I don't have to use planting mix because I've been working in that yard since 1999 and we've been mulching that yard since then. And I don't even have to use soil amendment anymore because
Yeah.
it's 23
It really
years of
goes up.
mulch breaking down. The soil in those beds is the most amazing soil ever. You just dig a hole,
yeah.
shove it in, done.
Yeah. No,
Do
you're right. And that's what I mean. Like, I think it's also just regional of how important
Mhm.
mulch is. But I
Yeah, the
definitely would say
Northeast, they don't mulch at all.
America's kind of the nation of mulching that
Well, I mean, the
is.
Northeast, they don't mulch up in the Northeast. They like I tell people like pine straw, they're like, "What? What? You put pine straw in your beds? What?"
Yeah,
They
I
have
was
no
Well,
clue.
but that would also look really dumb in the Northeast, in the North.
Yeah.
I feel like, here you have like pine
fine tree.
trees in
Hmm.
every neighborhood.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
you can't possibly live in like where I live, Durham, and not see a pine tree somewhere. So like it fits the environment. I think it would be really ridiculous in the North to, put pine
Yeah.
straw down.
Yeah, that does make sense.
In the north
I just don't think they
and
mulch
in
in
Europe.
general.
Oh, sorry. In the north and in Europe, don't they just top with compost? Like I feel like
Yeah.
people just
Yeah,
top
so
with
my dad,
compost all
like,
day.
when I was asking him about the new beds, I was like, "Are you gonna mulch them?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll put some new compost on them." And I'm like, "No, I mean like actual mulch." But, I do think they could learn from us because the weeds are really a big problem in Europe, and I think it does help so much with weeds. But
Hmm.
we'll
No,
see.
just
Her
so that
gardening is gonna go in Europe.
we keep the garden trolls at bay, we do need to talk about leaf mulch. Because people will come after us if we do not talk about the benefits of Escapes to the South did a wonderful article on autumn gold, which is like just your free everyday leaf mulch. Leaves are coming down. I saw a really great little method where a guy put all this leaves into like a plastic 55-gallon trash bag, or it was garbage bin,
Yeah.
and he just put his weed eater in it, and it shredded up
Hmm.
all of that thing, and that was great. And then when he put it out there, it would look a lot more uniform, and it laid down. So I think there's something. Obviously, there's ecologically, there's a great benefit, but it didn't look as bad too. It looked very almost like a product.
Well, it's natural. It's just the
yeah.
natural brown. It's not going to look bad. I mean, the mulch I use has a lot of ground up leaves in it. There's a lot of ground up leaves and bark and wood in the mulch I use.
The Botanic Garden, my husband and I met at Tunable Level Botanic Garden in Raleigh. They make the best leaf mulch compost ever. Like their soil there is just absolutely unreal how good it is. But they get like all the leaves from this town where it is at, and they then like turn it a couple of times. And like you said, like it breaks down a little bit, and they really use it before it's like true compost. But it is so good. And so when we moved into our new house, we took actually all the leaves and we created the beds with leaves, like mix it in with some soil and then put like mulch on top. But then last year we also did like leaves and mulch on top. And that's probably why I have so much mulch still in my driveway. But anyway, I do love it. However, I think like especially I have a lot of oak trees in my garden, and I think that also the oak leaves take a particular long time to break down. So I always wonder like is there also like differences in which leaves? But I absolutely love that idea of like shredding it a little bit before you put it on the beds. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, there's so many. I mean, it's just everywhere. Everybody's bagging up leaves, putting it out for the municipality. Come suck it up with the vacuum truck, or worse, or just throwing it away. Don't throw it away, people. Just find somebody that wants it. There's just a lot of it, and they're just constantly falling down. The leaf blower, the sound of this in Atlanta right now is leaf blower. That's the soundtrack of this month, right?
That is so true.
It is actually also funny. We don't rake our leaves. We just leave them for a very long time, and then we like might rake them into one big pile and just let it like degrade there, and then use the like within a year you have really good compost. But I can just feel my neighbors staring in our front yard. They just like stare us down and our leaves, and then like I always know my neighbor like would. He's asked us a couple of times if he could like just help us out and like get his side job to like rake our leaves, and we've told him like no, we don't do that. And I just feel like.
So Michelle, here's you another one of my mom's stories. So my mom is just like what Kata just described over there. And I was home and she was like, you got to get all the leaves out of the beds from around the plants. You know, they're not going to breathe. And I was like, Mom, actually, you know what? We're going to wait till the end of the winter to get these up because they actually help insulate, like especially hydrangeas, all that new growth they push out at the bottom, they help keep the frost off that growth. So I was like, they help insulate plants. Leave them be.
I love it. We should have like a little section that just says what Devin's mom said.
Oh, there's
Devin's
a lot of
mom's opinion.
Mythbusters, mom busters.
There we go.
Devin's
Mama busters.
Mama busters.
All right, everybody. That is the Plant Nerd Podcast. This is episode number 7, if you can believe it or not. So for Kata, the queen of the perennial garden, Devin, the Don of North Florida, and the millennial makeover maven herself, Michelle, this is the Plant Nerd Podcast. We'll see you next time. Keep going and growing, everybody.
Cheers.